Hi, I'm Arthur, and today I wanted to do a quick review and an outline of the book Pitch Anything, an innovated method for presenting, persuading, and winning the deal by Oren Klaff. So to give a quick summary of the book, Oren Klaff writes this book as a guideline for giving presentations and pitching ideas to investors, to our boss, to whoever really it may be. He starts off by giving his method, which he uses an acronym, STRONG, which is setting the frame, telling the story, revealing the intrigue, offering the prize, nailing the hook point, and getting a decision. He dials into this, he goes into this very deeply, and I think is a really great read for someone looking to give a really big presentation, especially. He uses neuroscience to really explain how pitching has been done up until this point, and how we can really do it effectively today to trigger an interest in others, trigger that interest in them for our idea, or whatever it may be that we're pitching to them. What's really interesting, what really sticks out to me the most in this book is how it talks about a crocodile being within us, which is really just a metaphor, but he talks about our brain being divided into three different sections. He talks about how it's divided into what he calls the croc brain, which is really the stem, our brain stem, the midbrain, and then the neocortex. The neocortex is where all of our complex information is processed, where it's analyzed and really scrutinized. And so that is really the analytical part of our brains. He talks about the midbrain, which controls our emotions and really controls all of our social interactions. And then there's the croc brain, which is the primitive part of our brain. It controls all of our survival instincts. All the messages that come to us are processed here before it ever allows the message to be sent to the neocortex, where we can actually analyze and understand complex messages. And so what he says is that the croc brain's most important task is survival. And eventually, really, it regards any abstract messages as a threat. What's even worse, really, is it ignores anything that's not new and exciting. That's why we need to begin each of our messages, each of our pitches and presentations by directing our messages to our audience's croc brain, and then we get them to listen to our messages. Normally, what we've done in the past is we formulate ideas in our neocortex, which is the outer part of our brain that doesn't receive the message first. And we think up of these complex ideas, and we try to pitch to somebody's neocortex because that's where they're going to analyze our messages. But we fail to realize that our message goes through this croc brain first, and the croc brain will look at that message and look at it in a very simplified way and deem it as interesting or not, whether it's new and exciting or whether it's not, and send that message to the neocortex along with a really chopped up message. Anyway, Oren Klaff goes into that a lot deeper in his book, and I think that's really interesting to understand how people are receiving our messages compared to how we're sending them. Very crucial, especially when we're talking about pitching ideas to investors or anything like such. He also talks about frames. Now, this is one of the biggest parts in his book and what he focuses on a lot. He says that frames really are a point of view, our point of view. They're our perspective, or our position, whether that's a position on an issue or whether that's a social status. We carry a frame with us into any social interaction that we go to. Now, these frames, when we do have a social interaction, they don't combine or mix with the person that we're talking to. These frames collide. And much like when we see in the animal kingdom, where you have an alpha and betas, an alpha male, if you can remember in like animal packs. These frames really aren't going to combine. They're going to collide, and so there is one frame that's looking for an alpha status, you can say, and this alpha status, when you have that alpha status, you are the one that controls uh, the social interaction or that situation. And this is what he calls establishing frame control. When we have that control, we govern that situation, and that's that difference between that alpha and that beta position, which isn't something that that's too obvious, but in our brains, that's how we perceive social interactions. And so he tells us and helps us understand how we should direct our messages so that we don't fall into that beta position. We can be able to find a way in our audience's brain to say to them that we are in the alpha position. I think that's really, really important. Again, coming back to that idea of where are we pitching the idea? How is the audience receiving the idea that we're sending to them, compared to how we think about our idea, where we formulated our idea. Anyway, I believe this is a really, really great read. Oren Klaff does go into some deeper thoughts and analysis about this. I think that you would need some time. It's a rather short read, but I think you need some time to completely understand what he says and study that. I think these ideas are really great. I first read this book when I was about to pitch to an investor for one of my ideas, and while my pitch was in the $20,000 range, Oren talks about his ideas, of course, being in the millions, and I'll get there one day. But I think that some of these ideas really did help me when I was pitching my investor, just to understand how how quickly people can become disinterested in our idea, and how we can really formulate and create a situation where our idea can be received the best. So anyway, great read. I think that anybody that has to be in this situation, whether they have to pitch or present something, an idea that's really important, this is a really, really great read. You'll have some great takeaways from this. If you don't need to dive deeper into the book, but we all have to pitch an idea at some time, at some point in our lives. And I think that these ideas are really important, as long as simply just to know how our messages are being received. So thanks a lot for watching. If you liked this video, or if you've read this book and you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and leave a comment in the comments below if there's another book that you'd like me to review. I'd love to jump into books, especially as they relate to entrepreneurship, and I'll be able to do my best in coming up with a review. Thanks a lot for watching.